Good day to you all. Today, we're going to talk about what we get a lot of calls on is the ultimate home buying guide. So how do we buy a house? What do we have to do? What are the steps we need to take? Well, I've got 11, or is it 12, or is it 13? Either way, I got a few steps for you. You have to find out. Stick around to the end and find out exactly how many steps it is. All right, so step number one is planning your money. Plan to spend money, collect money, saving money. Let's describe or understand how much money we actually need. How much money do we have set aside? How much do we want our payment to be? How much money do we have saved for a down payment? How much money do we have saved for closing costs? Planning the money ahead of time, understanding how much money I want to spend each month. What do I want my utility bills to be? Do I want to move to Philadelphia or not? Yes, you do. Wink, wink. All right, so part of that step one, planning your money, is finding a lender. So the lender, in my opinion, is the most important piece of this entire transaction. Now, if you're fortunate enough to have all cash and you're paying all cash, or maybe you're borrowing money from somewhere else, you're still planning your money, and you still want to understand the mortgage process, in my opinion, for various reasons, just because it's an important aspect of every real estate transaction. So maybe someone else went through it, or maybe you can help somebody out, or if you're talking about the experience. So the next step in planning the money is finding a lender. So of course you want to rely on a great team. You need to have a great lender. Of course, we have several great lenders. If you want, we can certainly refer one to you, nationally even. But finding the right lender is key to this whole thing because it makes the experience smoother. It makes you have 30 years of payments that you want. It also makes the entire process seamless. So finding the right lender can be pretty challenging. Where do you start? Do you go to one of those big internet websites? Do you go to your local bank? The local banks tend to have great products. They tend to have several options for you, and they tend to have that personal feeling because you're used to them. You feel comfortable as you walk in there. They're also restricted in a lot of ways. So finding the right lender, I advise using a broker. Now we got to be careful on which broker we use because sometimes there's broker fees involved. Now the brokers we usually refer you to won't have necessarily any junk fees, as I like to call them, but they'll be able to have access to hundreds of banks with hundreds of programs to put you in the best situation possible. So part of the process of finding a lender is getting pre-approved. Once we pick our lender, we want to be pre-approved. We want to give the documentation that the lender wants. You fill out the application, usually online, sometimes on paper, sometimes you could do it over the phone. You're giving information about where you work, how much you make, how much you want to borrow, how much money do you have. You don't have to spend all the money you have. So this is an important part because if you find and when you find the place you love, we want to be able to get it for you. So let's get pre-approved. My advisement is 2, 2, 2, and 2. How many twos is that? More than 2. So you want to have together 2 most recent tax returns, 2 most recent bank statements, and 2 most recent pay stubs. Now, if you don't get a pay stub in the traditional sense, or if you work on commissions and bonuses or something, this is sort of variable, but 2, 2, 2, and 2 is what we need to have ready. You don't necessarily need that to be pre-approved, but I think it's a good idea to have that. So you want to be ready to be pre-approved. Let's get pre-approved. We planned our money. We got the great lender. Now let's get pre-approved. All right, so what about comparing loan officers, or what about comparing brokers and comparing your local bank to your local credit union, comparing those big internet websites to maybe your Uncle Sal who has a bunch of cash and wants to loan it to you. So how do you compare the process? There are 3 big things there. Number 1 is the fees. What is it going to cost you to get this loan? No matter what situation you're in, there are certain fees that are always going to be charged, but then there are a lot of junk fees that get added and aren't necessary by any means for any reason. You can have an option to buy the rate down, but what is the rate? The rates are rising. They're rising and lowering depending on the day and time you're watching this video, but that's an important aspect of it. So what are the fees? The next one is, what is the service like? Are they actually going to do what they say they're going to do? What's the process and service after you sign the loan application going to look like? Is their team local? Is their team international? Do they have a team, or are they working out of their basement? Now, there are a lot of mom and pop shops that are really great and very efficient, and even if they're working out of their basement, certainly can do the right job for you. So what is the process and what does the service look like? What does kind of the team, the process look like from there? Third being the reputation. Now, a simple Google search, thank you Google, will tell you a lot about a company. Asking around, looking for reviews. What do they call that? Social proof. Speaking of social proof, check out some of our social proof by Googling us, but social proof is important. What kind of a reputation do they have is important, and what kind of a historical data can you find on this entity or individual, and ask around. All right, now the next step here is the most important piece in my opinion. I might be a little biased, but finding a real estate agent. Choosing the right agent. So it's sort of similar to picking the right lender. Reputation is king. Google search are great. Zillow reviews, of course. Also, peer reviews. There are reviews of agents by their fellow agents. So it's not just how do they treat the customer, but how do they treat the entire process. That's super important. Someone that's experienced. Now, what does experience mean necessarily? You could have a new agent who's really great, really sharp, really intuitive, and has a great backing, has a great mentor. Maybe they're part of an apprentice program. So don't discount the new agent. But if you would like a veteran of more than 20 years.
No! God, please, no! No!
Well, the buck just stopped. All right, I guess that's enough shameless self-promotion for me. But seriously, if you do need some help, even a second opinion or just an opinion on an agent you hired, or maybe you're moving internationally and you have a question about how does it work, I'm glad to help. You can text me anytime or give me a call or shoot me a text. I think I said that. Also send me an email. But picking the right agent, are they local to the marketplace? Does that matter? Maybe. Just because where their office is located doesn't necessarily mean they're an expert in that area or not an expert in that area. Because of the World Wide Web and the great vast ocean that is the internet, a lot of offices have become cloud and in the clouds, but is the agent's head in the cloud? That's what's most important. Peer reviews certainly is big. What are also people saying on a Google review? That's super important. Ask for a recommendation. You can contact the local board of realtors and they will make a recommendation based off of those pieces that we mentioned before. So choose the right agent, but choose someone you're comfortable with personally. Are you going to get along with that person? They may be really good in the marketplace, get you a really good deal, but if you can't stand them, how much fun is this going to be? So take your time, interview at least one agent, or at least 3 agents. There may be some fees involved from their office. Now that's important. Usually an office does charge a fee in addition to commission they're going to receive, but mostly what is the experience going to be like and can they get the job done? How much production do they do? How many houses do they sell average in a year? All right, we got our money, we got our agent, now we're going to shop for homes. Now this process I could make several videos about it, and I think I even have made several videos about this, but generally speaking, you want to scrub your list. So pick out your top 10 to 30 houses, let's say, on your website of choice. Once you have 10, 20, maybe 30 places picked out, we want to scrub that list. We want to get that list knocked down in half. So let's say you pick your top 20 places. You want to get that list to your top 10, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 12 places. How do you scrub the list is do a drive-by. The power of the drive-by is actually unbelievable. We are magicians with our camera, and we make every house look like a mansion. So we also want to know what the neighborhood's like. We also want to know, is the commute acceptable? A lot of things that can be done on and with photography and with video in reality is a lot different. I know you're not going to fall off your chair when you hear me say that, but scrub your list down from your top 20 to your top 10, maybe your top 7, 8 places. Now go look at all 8 places. Simply put, look at a lot of houses, make a lot of offers. Honestly, if you're seeing 30 and 40 places, maybe you're not sure really what you want, but do take that time. Maybe you want to look at condos. Make it a condo day. Maybe you're not sure if you like HOAs or townhouses. You do need to see a lot of places. The average person does look at between 8 and 10 houses, now depending on the marketplace, depending on the market environment. But generally speaking, if you can make your list and scrub it down based on driving by, looking at neighborhoods and so forth, you could be out in one day and find your dream home. It does happen a lot, but it doesn't have to be rushed either. All right, so next up, we're going to write an offer. So having the right team in place at this point is super critical. Writing an offer is probably, or is the definitely most important piece of obtaining the house, of getting the house. So we want to make the offer strong. We want to come from a place of being a super qualified buyer. So we want to write our offer strategically so it's good for us, but also good for the seller. What parts of the offer are we going to include? What contingencies are going to happen? We're going to have a mortgage contingency. We're going to talk about inspections, and we can get to that next. But next up is going to be writing the offer. We need to write the offer professionally, but also middle of the road, if you will. Not heavily weighted to one side, but we also want to remain protected. Hopefully, your knowledgeable real estate expert can help you in that, guys. But if you do need some assistance there, again, I'm glad to give a second opinion. Certainly, there are some great real estate attorneys, and there are some really great people on the street that will give you their 2 cents on how to write a real estate contract. And hey, take all the advice you can, but make your best decision. Obviously, trust your gut too if it's telling you one thing, but writing the offer is going to have many pieces to it. There's going to be deposits involved, which are usually protected by the offer contingency. The contingency being getting a loan, having inspections, and the seller having to clear title. Okay, well, I mentioned before we're writing an offer, and part of that offer is having an inspection. Now, depending on the market environment, is it heavily weighted to the sellers or heavily weighted to the buyers? We do want to have inspections. Now, the city, the borough, depending on the township, usually is going to require a seller to have their inspection. Now, the agreement of sale will stipulate, well, wait, who's going to do that work and who's going to order that? Usually the seller does it. In Pennsylvania, yes. Now, it depends on which state you're in. So our offer consists of having a deposit, setting a settlement date, and setting contingencies. Having a home inspection is a great idea. It's certainly highly advisable. There are ways to have an inspection and maybe not upset the seller or tick off the seller, or again, try to go into that middle of the road thing. You can have inspections for informational purposes only if we're in a heavily weighted seller's environment. Somewhere in the middle, you may want to put a deductible in there. The buyer is responsible for the first X number of dollars of repairs. Or if any single repair item is $300 or less, the buyer will be responsible. So here we're looking to tell the seller, listen, we want to know what's going on with the house. We're not experts. We want to hire an expert to tell us, but we're not looking to nickel and dime you, but we are looking to make sure that nothing major is going on and something that they may not even be aware of. There are various ways to pick a great home inspector. There are a couple of certifications, statewide and national-wide. We want to make sure they have a good rating on both of those scales. Also, hey, a good Google search with a lot of reviews, calling around and asking, and call into the office of these places. Call into my office, call into the lender's office, call into the home inspector's office and ask them, how does the process work? Having a good reputation usually means you did a very good job, but you also have a good system in place. All right, we're coming down the home stretch here, so now we have the underwriting process. Now, this is sort of a process that is kind of one of these things. We're not really sure what's happening. It's in underwriting. Well, what does that mean? Underwriting? Are they writing under the table? Are they writing things? Well, if you've never heard the term underwriting, basically they're verifying information. You told them something on your mortgage application. Now the lender is underwriting the loan. They are processing all the paperwork. You told them you make this much, now you're going to prove it. You told them your tax return said this, now you're going to prove it. This process can be quite hurried and frustrating at times. You may have to provide information more than once, and sometimes it's specifically to see if you were giving false information the first time. I know that kind of sounds crazy, but hey, we did it to ourselves. So if you're in a position of a job where you have a contract, they're going to want to review that. They're also going to call your employer and verify that you actually work there. Hey, I work here. I show up here every day, right? Here's my pay stub. Isn't that enough? No, I'm sorry. It's not enough. And you just saying, hey, don't worry, I'll make the payment every month, unfortunately won't work. But having your word as gold, it may work if you're going to buy the house in cash. Okay, so sometimes the underwriting process, they make a mistake. Could you ever imagine someone making a mistake? So we have to be ready for that. We can't hurry the process any longer than it should take, but we also want to give information as quickly as we can from our side because it has to go back into underwriting. Once it's fully underwritten, the manager of underwriting also has to sign up on it. Now, part of the underwriting process is going to be the appraisal. where the lender is going to send a professional out to give an opinion on what the house is worth. Now, these are coupled together, and this is kind of my next step here, getting through the appraisal. The appraiser, the bank representative, let's say, or it's a company they'll hire to come out and determine value. Now, it's just another opinion, but usually we're pretty close in appraisal values and actual market values. So the appraiser is going to come out and they're going to give their opinion based on what other houses selling in the area. They may also require some repairs, so we have to budget for that. We have to be ready for that, and the seller is not necessarily beholden to make those repairs, so we have to consider or be ready to make those repairs or have them negotiated part of our inspection process. All right, so just before closing, we have a clear to close. Now, this is the three words we like to hear: clear to close. That's the double thumbs up. That's the ha, yaha, the yippee, the yahoo, the oh yeah, the booyah moment that we're all waiting for. So once we have it clear to close, everything has happened. You've given all your paperwork. You've given all your money. We are now just before closing. Now, just before closing could mean a lot of things. We do still need to have our final walkthrough. Does the house still look like it did when we were just in there? Well, we need to check that. Just before closing, we're verifying, do we have insurance? Do we have all the money we said we had? Did we put any new debt on our credit? This is a super critical point here. I'll let your lender advise you better, but don't buy anything until after settlement. In fact, you should wait at least 2 or 3 full days before you go out and let yourself go, if you will, buying things. You don't need to buy furniture. You can certainly have it picked out and even put it off to the side, but do not, warning, please do not open up any new credit for at least 3 days, business days after settlement. Now, just before closing, there's a lot of things that'll be happening. Maybe you're coordinating with movers. Maybe you're coordinating with some last-minute surprises. You also might have to explain that $9.99 expenditure at Panera Bread. It has happened, so you just tell them you had lunch and you'll move on. But these things will come up at the last minute. There may be something wrong in the house. We on our team highly advise we have a pre-settlement walkthrough the day or two before, and then of course the day of, to make sure the work was done.
All right. Take care now. Bye-bye then.
All right, the last and final step, or do I have one more, is going to be settlement itself. You want to make sure you arrive early, you arrive on time. I advise you wire the money that you owe. Don't bring a check. You might lose the check, or you might decide you want to go to Vegas on a whim. Have the funds wired in. It's well worth every penny. Watch out for wire fraud. Now, settlement is really when you can breathe easy. We want to make sure all the utilities are in our name as of the day of settlement. The day you buy the house is the day you need to start paying your water bill. So I'd make sure we call those at least a couple of weeks in advance and verify a couple of days before, because I know, you may be surprised to hear people make mistakes. Well, don't you make a mistake when it comes to real estate. I'm your local real estate expert here, and I'm glad to help you. So let's say, what is our bonus? Now, there's after the fact, right? We've gone to settlement. Everything is fine. What happens now? Make your payments. Love the house, right? But budget for other instances. I call it a capital contribution. So along with your budget that you'll have for any maintenance and repairs, you'll want to have a honey-do list. Create a honey-do list to improve your house over time. Things will come up, things will be of a surprise, but if you have, let's say, your inspection checklist, it's kind of like your owner's manual. You'll be ready to move forward with any repairs and maintenance costs that you have set forth. And if you're budgeting for them every month, those surprises will be taken care of, and you can have pretty much a modern house all the time. You want to redo all your windows? Take your time and do them throughout the first year. Maybe your roof needs addressing. Take a look at investing into what's called a savings account. Anyhow, my point being is add, I would say, maybe 10% to your mortgage payment and put that on the aside. Speaking of adding to your mortgage payment, here's a little hint. If you make one extra mortgage payment every year towards principal, one time, one payment, all towards principal, you'll knock about 10 years off a 30-year loan. You're welcome. If you'd like some other helpful hints, you can call me anytime. I'm Gregory Martyr, your local real estate expert. I appreciate you checking out the video. Appreciate you hitting subscribe. Hit that bell notification for some great video content like this. If you have any questions, hit me up anytime. We do answer all communication. Give us a call, shoot us a text, and have a great day, everybody.